This card not only allows you to break a negate, but also make one. So Synchro Transcend is a quick play spell card that reads, target one Synchro monster your opponent controls, special summon one Synchro monster that is one level higher than it from your extra deck, but it cannot activate its effects this turn. You can only activate one Synchro Transcend per turn. Just like every other card in Yu-Gi-Oh!, there are both positive and negative things to say about this card. However, since I mostly have positive things to say about this card, I will start with the negative things first. So let's be real, this card is rather reactive. You do need your opponent to Synchro summon a monster first, and then you can only use it when you're going second, I guess. In a way, it's not necessarily ideal in the game 1. You might have to play this in the side deck at best. It also has to special summon a monster that is exactly one level higher than the Synchro monster that you are targeting, and the Synchro monster that you are summoning is not treated as a Synchro summon, but rather just a cheat special summon, so you can't revive it back from the graveyard, and there might be a few interesting effects that you could be missing out on. It's also once per turn, but we're going to see later on that this is really not the end of the world. Alright, now that I played Devil's Advocate, it is now time to switch teams and explain to you why these cons really don't matter. So first of all, Synchro Transcend is a fantastic side deck option against Sword Soul because your opponent is always trying to make the Chi Jiao turn 1, and this card actually does lose really hard to Synchro Transcend because if your opponent cannot make the Baroness and ends on the Blackout, the sudden shift instead, all you really have to do is to go Synchro Transcend, summon the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, jump over the Chi Jiao, and your opponent lost the Chi Jiao, which is a negate. The sudden shift is no longer utilizable. Hand Traps couldn't really stop the Synchro Transcend because it summons from the extra deck and not from the deck, so Ash just doesn't really do anything. And also on top of that, you also end on Hot Red, which is going to be a negate as soon as we get to next turn. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge fan of 2-in-1 package deals and spells or traps that generate monster resources so you can apply pressures with. Alright, now back to the once per turn subject. So it really isn't the end of the world if you draw multiple copies of the card because it's a you can only activate this card once per turn and not a you can only use this card once per turn. If your opponent did end on the Baroness, well, it doesn't really change anything. It's just that the first copy is going to be a negate bait. Obviously, Baroness has to negate it, otherwise you summon the Hot Red, and then you can actually jump over the Baroness or still jump over the Chi Jiao. So obviously, the first one gets negated, you just use the other one, Hot Red jumps over the Chi Jiao, the sudden shift does nothing, you still have 4 cards in your hand, you didn't have to use up your normal summon, and it is Merry Christmas for you. On top of that, since it is a quick play spell card and it only prevents the monster from activating its effect, you can actually set one copy of this card, and on your opponent's turn, your opponent whatever summons another Chi Jiao, you can use your quick play spell card again, Synchro Transcend, in order to this time summon Virtual World QB Shen Shen, and obviously its effect is completely passive, so your opponent is going to be under a kind of like a Macrocosmos-esque effect. So I've mostly talked about its applications against Sword Soul, but don't go thinking that it's bad against the other decks because it's pretty good against Dragon Link, which consistently makes Borreload Savage Dragon, and it's also pretty nice against Adamancipator, Virtual World, and other rogue decks. I want to say a card like Synchro Transcend is just destined for greatness because the second a Synchro-based strategy enters the format, this card immediately becomes a good side deck option. Therefore, I do believe that investing in 3 copies of this extremely cheap card is definitely worth it, and obviously you will just profit from it in the long term. But what do you guys think about this card? Do you think it's good? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Of course, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. Seriously motivates me so much. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.